All right, welcome. Today we're going to go way beyond the idea of just bouncing back from stress. We're going to get tactical and build a personal performance playbook for what I like to call strategic resilience.
Imagine you're crossing a rushing river. The first time, you're careful, you pick your steps. But what if you try to cross it again a week later? You might assume it's the same, but if the current's stronger and you don't adjust, you're gonna get swept away. And that's really the heart of what we're talking about today. True resilience isn't about brute force. It's all about smart adaptation.
And that's the trap so many of us fall into, right? We treat resilience like it's just sheer endurance, thinking we can just power through whatever life throws at us without ever changing our approach. But honestly, that's a high-stakes gamble with your health and your performance. So this explainer, it's about giving you a new framework to stop gambling and start planning.
So first things first, we have to completely rethink what resilience even means, because it's not about how much you can endure, it's really about a dynamic balancing act that's happening every single day.
And that brings us to the core idea for today, supply versus demand. I want you to think of it like a set of scales. On one side, you've got your supply. That's all the energy you're taking in from things like rest, good health, a positive mindset. And on the other side, you've got your demands, all the energy going out to your job, to stress, to big life changes. Now, the real trouble starts when those scales are consistently, day after day, tipped in one direction.
And that chronic imbalance? Well, it has a name: burnout. And this is so much more than just feeling tired. It's a state of total exhaustion, emotional, mental, and physical, that's caused by your demands consistently being way higher than your supply. The most important thing to get here: burnout is an equation. It's not a personal failing.
And a crash like this, it doesn't just happen overnight. It's so much more like a slow leak in a tire. It starts with stress that just keeps mounting, which then builds to this chronic, deep exhaustion, and then, finally, the crash. What feels sudden is actually just the final stage of a long, gradual process.
So, the big question is, how do you spot that slow leak before it becomes a full-blown crash? Well, here are the key early warning signs you really need to watch for. That feeling of persistent fatigue that sleep doesn't fix, a foggy focus, maybe you're more irritable or your productivity just isn't what it used to be. I mean, think about procrastination. We heard a story about a finance pro named Jake who thought he just had a bad habit. Turns out, it was an early symptom of burnout. His mind was literally hitting the brakes because the demands on him were just way too high.
Recognizing the signs is a huge first step. But now, for step 2, building a stronger foundation so you're way less likely to get there in the first place. It's time to fortify your mind and your body. And, a massive part of this happens right between your ears. That internal monologue you have going on all day, it can be your single biggest energy drain. Or it can be your greatest resilience builder. It really is all about managing your mindset.
Okay, here's a perfect example of this in action. That mental trap of all or nothing thinking. You know the one? You make one mistake, and suddenly your brain tells you the whole project is a total failure. The strategic reframe is to challenge that distortion, see it for what it is. This isn't about blind optimism or lying to yourself, it's about being more accurate. And every single time you challenge these kinds of thoughts, you're plugging a major energy leak on the supply side of your equation.
And of course, you can't have a resilient mind without a healthy body. These right here are the physical non-negotiables. The big shift we all need to make is to stop treating sleep, nutrition, and exercise as optional luxuries we get to if we have time. We have to start scheduling them like they're the most important meetings in our calendar, because for our performance, they absolutely are.
Okay, so with that foundation in place, it's time to get strategic. Let's design a resilience plan that is uniquely 100% yours. Look, generic advice like "you should meditate more" often fails because it's not tied to what actually drives you. A truly resilient strategy has to be built on your core values. So ask yourself, what matters most to you right now? Is it your family? Is it career growth? Is it creativity? That is your starting point.
And here is a really powerful tool to help you with that: a personal contacts map. Just take a second and think about your own landscape. What are your internal strengths and obstacles? Maybe you're super motivated, but you're also a perfectionist. And what about your external world? Who makes up your support system? What are your biggest stressors? Just seeing it all mapped out like this can give you an incredibly clear strategic view of where you need to focus your energy.
All right, with that clarity, now we can move from the big picture strategy to daily practice. It's time to create your action plan.
Let's break it down into 3 really simple steps. First, choose 3 to 5 pillars based on your values and that context map we just talked about. Things like boundaries or relationships. Second, for each pillar, define tiny specific actions. And third, and this is key, write it down and tell someone. That's what makes it real.
And it is so important to remember just how small these actions can be. Seriously, consistency will always beat intensity. There was a story about a woman named Sabrina who felt so guilty taking any time for herself. Her starting point, just 5 minutes of alone time a day. That's it. But that tiny, achievable step was an absolute game changer for her.
And please remember this, a plan is not a prison. Life gets crazy. A huge project deadline, a new baby, a sick family member, things happen. Scaling your habits back during a really tough week isn't failure. That's a sign of a truly resilient, adaptable strategy. You're just adjusting to the new current in the river.
I love this analogy. An orchestra conductor has a rigid score they have to follow, note for note. But a jazz musician? They have a core theme, a melody, and they improvise and adapt around it. That is strategic resilience. You have your core values and pillars. That's your theme. But you adapt your actions to the rhythm of your actual life. So, let's bring this all home. Looking back at that supply versus demand equation for your own life, right now, what is the one small, strategic action you can take today to refill your supply? Not tomorrow, not next week, today. It's not just a nice thought. It's your first strategic step towards building a truly sustainable, high-performance life.